A queen is crowned. The year 1904 was a year of great Marian solemnities throughout the world. It was the golden jubilee of the definition of the dogma of the Immaculate Conception. A commission of cardinals in Rome had drawn up a program for the year which Canada's bishops published, faithfully and fulfilled separately in their own dioceses. In Three Rivers, Bishop Cloutier profited by the intensely Marian atmosphere to recommend an increase in fidelity and fervor at the shrine in Cap-de-la-Madeleine. Each parish of the diocese will make it a duty, this year most particularly, to make a pilgrimage to the shrine of Our Lady of Cap-de-la-Madeleine. There had been no single national manifestation planned, but Our Lady apparently wanted one, and she provided it at the Cape. It started when Father Émile Jonquet arrived at the shrine on April 9, 1904, to assist Father Dozois and to become editor of the Annals. Father Jonquet came from one of the Marian shrines of France, whose anti-clerical government had been closing down these places chosen by Our Lady and driving the religious who guarded them from the country. The great round meaning of the whole story of Cap-de-la-Madeleine as a continuance of the tradition of old France had turned full cycle. As the shadows fell on Mary's shrines in the old world, the curtain was about to rise on the full splendor of the little spot the first arrivals from a better France had prepared for her in the new. The new edition of the Guardians of the Shrine had been Superior of Notre-Dame de Talence. He had visited most of the major Marian shrines of the nation, particularly those in the care of his fellow oblates. He was in a position to make comparison, and it did not take him long to recognize that here was a true shrine. He was soon writing to Rome saying, "I have seen almost all our oblate shrines in France. Apart from Montmartre and Pomey, I have not seen anywhere more activity or more devotion than there is here." The occasion of this letter was a request that the statue of Our Lady of the Cape be granted the right to wear, by papal authority, the crown indicative of Our Lady's queenship over angels and men. The privilege of being crowned solemnly in the name of the sovereign pontiff is a rare one granted only to statues at the most honored and most frequented places of pilgrimage. It had been granted just 9 years previously to Mexico's national Madonna, Our Lady of Guadalupe. No other statue in Canada had received it, nor, as far as is known, in the United States. From the story of the Cape, from the many reports of unusual favors, and from the evidence of piety and pilgrimage before his eyes, Father Jonquet knew that the statue of Our Lady of the Cape could meet the requirements for this honor. When Bishop Cloutier was approached, he was delighted with the idea. "Your project of having the Blessed Madonna of Cap-de-la-Madeleine crowned by the Holy See is one whose realization I ardently wish. What will the highest blessing of the Church and the august act by which His Holiness will crown the venerated statue of the Virgin not do to foster the action of Mary and the zeal of your fathers? I can easily see that the lovable little shrine will be more widely known than ever before, and more cherished, that people from afar will share the joy and have a new zeal for making their pious pilgrimages." The formal request was made through Father Joseph Lemieux, procurator of the Oblates at the Holy See. The letter was accompanied by a summary of facts about the shrine. It also urged haste so that the crowning could take place before the pilgrimage season ended in that Jubilee year, and requested that Bishop Cloutier be asked to perform the ceremony. The documents left the Cape on April 24, 1904. On May 27, Cardinal Mary Delval addressed a favorable answer to the Bishop of Three Rivers. Father Joseph Dozois of the Congregation of Oblates of Mary Immaculate, rector of the Shrine of Our Lady of the Most Holy Rosary at Cap-de-la-Madeleine, making known to the Holy Father how great is the devotion which the faithful in Canada cherish for the Most Blessed Virgin, venerated from ancient date in this shrine, addressed to him an urgent request that the statue of the Virgin be crowned there by apostolic authority. The august pontiff desirous that devotion to the sublime Mother of God should increase from day to day, and happy also that the Jubilee of the Immaculate Conception be marked with a monument of loving devotion, whose memory will pass on to posterity, has benevolently deigned to acquiesce to the request by authorizing your most illustrious and most reverend Lordship to carry out, in the name of the Sovereign Pontiff, the ceremony of solemn coronation. It is most pleasing to me to be able to announce to you this evidence of the special goodwill the Holy Father holds for you, and I seize this occasion to again call myself with sentiments of the highest esteem. Your most illustrious and most reverend Lordship's devoted servant, Reverend Cardinal Mary Del Val. The event was set for October 12th, and preparations began without delay. Starting with the July issue, the Annals under Father Jonquet sets the tone of celebration. Great news! The Vicar of Jesus Christ has just bestowed the astounding honor of coronation upon Our Lady of the Cape. This favor from Pope Pius X will bring joy to the hearts of all Canadians. And again, we do not see only the restricted confines of one diocese. It is the love of a nation which inspires and prepares these magnificent solemnities. This is an affair for all Canada. It is a national feast we must celebrate. Other dioceses join in the chorus of preparation to make the coronation of Our Lady of the Cape a truly national affair. In Quebec, they rejoice in the selection of their own Archbishop Bégin to be the special preacher for the occasion, and they note it will be exactly 9 years to the day, October 12th, 1895, that he performed the same function at the coronation of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Montreal announces it, and the Review at Valleyfield says that the crowning will be for Canada, a dominant note in the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the definition of the dogma of the Immaculate Conception. As the time draws nearer, the grandeur of the manifestation that is going to take place in a little town whose name many of the participants would be hearing for the first time becomes manifest. For 2 weeks before the feast, the Three Rivers newspaper reflects the growing excitement as every issue passes on the latest word from the authorities at the shrine and from the bishop's palace. The city is to be the scene of a meeting of all the bishops of Canada on October 13th, and on the previous day, crowds will throng in from every direction to join these bishops in celebrating the single honor paid to Canada's national Madonna by a saintly pope. Great event! His Excellency the Apostolic Delegate will be at Three Rivers on Tuesday, October 11th. A ceremony which will be remembered forever. The crowning of the statue of Our Lady of the Rosary will take place on October 12th. Merchants are asked to keep their stores closed from morning till noon. We shall all go en masse to Cap-de-la-Madeleine. Archbishops and bishops will be there. We are asked to illuminate Champlain Square and the surrounding district and to give a concert there. The bishop's palace will be illuminated. The city should be decorated from the 11th to the 13th inclusive. Families who have bedrooms available are asked to put them at the disposition of the clergy. They are respectfully requested to give their names and the number of rooms available. As for Cap-de-Madeleine itself, the town was quite simply given over to the occasion. What a triumph of history! What a fulfillment! Triumph for the men who made their first action in this territory a literal planting of the cross. Fulfillment for the handful of men, women, and children who had walked the paths of this settlement from one little household shrine to another, praying Our Lady for courage, perseverance, and aid to make this little island of Christianity a fertile field that would spread its seed throughout the land. Triumph for Father Bouteau, who had first taught the Rosary at Cap-de-Madeleine. Fulfillment for Father Desaillet, who had seen in neglected beads the instrument to revive dying souls, the means of filling an empty church. Triumph for Father Frederick, who had foreseen this day on June 22, 1888, at a moment no one else shared his vision. Fulfillment for Bishop Cloutier, who had said in his pastoral of December 8, 1902, the pastoral which announced the arrival of the Oblates and the definitive organization of the shrine. we do not think it reckless on our part to hope that one day all the people of our country will render homage to our divine protectress in the national shrine of the Holy Rosary, and triumph for the Oblates, who in 2 short years had brought all this about. It is a measure of the change in the shrine's status from local to national fame that we can gather the account of the coronation ceremonies from reports in major newspapers other than that of Three Rivers. Montreal was Canada's largest city and its largest newspaper. La Presse made the celebration at the Cape its most important news story for days before and after the event. The English-language press in Quebec, Montreal, and Toronto, the nation's 3 principal cities, even in secular dailies, which did not cater particularly to a Catholic readership, recognized the occasion as important news. Feverish activity had transformed the old shrine. The interior of the chapel had been entirely renovated. The old box-like annex had been replaced by the present roomy cruciform building with place for almost 1,000 pilgrims. Its dome received a statue of the Immaculate Conception donated by the contractors. A huge tent had been raised in front of the chapel to house the open-air ceremonies. The Oblates, who had done all this work, made the occasion possible, completed the complex arrangements, and saw to their smooth functioning, had themselves a background position in the ceremonies themselves. A Triduum preceding the coronation was preached by a Jesuit on the first day, a Dominican on the second, and a Franciscan on the third. The apostolic delegate, representing Pope Pius X, came to preside over the candlelight procession on the eve of the feast. His voice was one of several to call the Cape a national place of pilgrimage. On one occasion he said, "It is a great happiness for me to know that our Divine Mother has chosen a place on the banks of the St. Lawrence in your diocese in which she accords special graces, not only to all the faithful of Three Rivers Diocese, but also to all her children in Canada." In closing the Triduum, Father Columban, provincial of the Franciscans in Canada, said, "Wearing her crown of glory, Our Lady of the Cape is setting forth to conquer all hearts, and from this day forth, a man will have to be blind or deprived of his senses to fail to recognize that the Shrine of the Cape is the national shrine of Canada. O Virgin of the Cape, we have known you in your lowliness. We shall see you in glory. We are going to see you, crowned like a queen, going forth to conquer the whole nation." On the day itself, the ceremony began at 10:30, under the canopy where the miraculous statue had been installed for the occasion. His Excellency, the Apostolic Delegate, celebrated the Holy Sacrifice in the presence of 7 of the 8 archbishops who then constituted the Canadian Episcopate. All the bishops of the province of Quebec were present, except the bishop of the new diocese of Joliet. With the addition of Bishop Michaud of Burlington, Vermont, there was a total of 16 archbishops or bishops. Canada from coast to coast was gathered together by Our Lady of the Rosary in an obscure little village of Quebec. As Father Paul-Henri Barabie, present superior of the Guardians of the Shrine, has put it, when we hear the Archbishop of Ottawa sounding the glories of Mary in the language of Shakespeare, after the Metropolitan of Quebec had just praised her in accents worthy of Bousset, we cannot help seeing in all this the intervention of divine providence, wishing to announce the reign of Our Lady from one ocean to the other. Bishop Cloutier, who had the distinction of acting for Pope Pius X in placing upon the head of French Canada's own queen the crown donated by her Irish subjects, said in his talk, "Thanks be to God, thanks be to Mary, who having made her humble shrine a place of private pilgrimage, then a diocesan pilgrimage, now deigns in this day of great solemnity to make it known as a national shrine." The actual moment of the coronation must, from every account, have been one charged with emotion. The bishop approached the statue, robed in pontifical splendor. Behind him came the poorly clad, ascetic-looking, humble figure of the good Father Frederick, his 2 hands outstretched, before him bearing on a silken cushion the shamrock-girdled crown. The crown was blessed, Father Jonquet writes, and while the cannon boomed and the bells rang out wildly, The prelate placed on the head of Our Lady of the Cape the sign of her power and her royalty. An indescribable emotion ran through the crowd. It was like a magnetic current which passed over their faces, over their hearts, shaking them, possessing them. There were tears in every eye. The moment was one that all present carried away with them to the four corners of Canada as an unforgettable memory and a living invitation to spread devotion to Our Lady of the Cape. 48 years later, His Excellency Alfred Sinnett, the late Archbishop of Winnipeg, who had accompanied the apostolic delegate as secretary, wrote, "I recall that Bishop Charetti was more pleased with the crowning of the statue than with anything that occurred at that time. He raved over it and constantly referred to it in conversation. If those in heaven can follow events on earth, Father Luc Disselette must have found this day of crowning in more senses than one."